There's he. All right. Here's the reason I kind of went along. I was not going to go. I was not going to go. Gary was going to go. He was going to be the chief plumber. So, but because of WGM's requirements and so forth, and Gary was not able to come. He was going to come. He closed the door for Gary, and okay, Jim, you got to step up. And Roy Cerny was supposed to go, guy that knew how to build things and whatever. Well, he couldn't go either. So Jim had said, oh, okay, I will go. I was reluctant, I'll admit it. But what a blessing. What a blessing. So the reason I went is we were putting, you've seen in pictures already, a bathroom in Claudia's house. We didn't know how much was going to be done for us when we got there, the men of the church. Originally, the only walls up in that, there was studs up in the house, but none of the walls were covered except for around Claudia's bedroom. So the men of the church, they enclosed the bathroom and the other bedroom, which was originally the kitchen. They moved the kitchen out to the front with the pictures you've seen. So when we got there, what's next? When we got there, we were really surprised that there was interior walls. We didn't have to build any interior walls or cover any interior walls. The stairway up to the loft was already done. We didn't have to, all it had before was a ladder, which was something we were going to supposedly have to fix or to take care of. But it was already done when we got there. So this is the main job. But this and painting was our main physical jobs other than our outreaches. So as you see, we got a room that's got boards up, and I've got Josh there cutting a hole in the floor so we can start rough and plumb again. And Pastor Marty, he's my gopher. He's the observer. You always got to have somebody that can go get something. And you know, Gary, when you're plumbing, there's always something else you could use. You know, the tools that we had came in a clothes basket. I had a Sawzall, a power drill with one battery for the two of them, because the second battery had a shorted cell in it, so that didn't charge. I had one hole saw, which would have been for about 1.5 inch pipe, and everything was 2 inches and bigger. So, but I did have the arbor as a drill bit from that hole saw to make holes to hold my tight pipes up with wire. I didn't have any plumber's tape, nothing like that. That was too extravagant. So you made do with what you had, and it all worked out. So anyway, here we are. Josh and I are in there. We're getting some of the plumbing roughed in. You saw some pictures where they were digging trenches. There we're at. But you know how everything is kind of planned. You know, you got materials ordered and everything. Well, the first day we got there, a lot of the stuff wasn't there yet. So, but this is something Claudia wanted done. She wanted a railing upstairs so nobody could walk off the loft, fall through the studs, and get hurt. So, and the men had left a bunch of boards and stuff upstairs. So that was our first job. Got Josh and Spencer and Marcela and Brian. We were all up there working, Pastor, nailing railings together and putting it up on the loft. Got it done. Josh is being our model here. So first job done, thumbs up. But then, because we had Evelyn along, she could get up those steps, that little rascal. So Spencer went out, scrounged around. He found a door that was up on a pile of stuff in the old chicken coop. The chickens were all gone right now because they're out of feed. So they're all farmed out to families around the church who can feed them. So the church doesn't have any chickens right there. So anyway, in the chicken house there, Spencer found this door that would just fit between the railings on on the steps. I went and scrounged around in the storeroom in the back of the church and found some hinges and some screws, and we managed to see. We even got a level on there, making sure it's relatively level and plumb. Teamwork all the way. And Gary, when you're plumbing, there's always got to be a joist in the way. When you're going to mount the toilet there, it's right there, right where you want to put that flange. So, mark it out. Josh is under there cutting it. Enter it down there, boxing it in, laying there in the dirt. And that is different dirt. It's dry, it's dusty under there. And as you can see on Josh's jeans, it's kind of, but you know what? When you get out from out of there, you can brush it right off. But it's kind of, when you don't have a shower and you're laying there and your hair is in dirt, it feels kind of cruddy. And you got to improvise. Okay, sometimes you can't use a Sawzall to cut things. So you take a Sawzall blade and you nail it to a board. That's your saw handle. And you start cutting stuff. Okay, and then, you're going to have tile in this bathroom. It's pretty hard to put tile right down on wood. So what do? There was a piece of plastic out front from something. I have no idea where it came from, but the Lord provided it. Laid the plastic down, taped it up with duct tape, and we started mixing concrete on the ground out front and laid a bed of concrete for the tile to go on. And it took a few extra days before we got our cement board for the back of the shower, but we got it. And here I can't remember what I'm marking there, but I end up, Spencer's got the hammer in hand. He's going to finish nailing them up for me. And we talked about the cistern. Well, that cistern has been there, and when we got there, it needed some repair. When they put the top on it, they packed paper bags in up along the seam. Well, over the years, those paper cement bags have fallen apart, and they kind of wanted that gap up there in the top edge of the wall sealed. So that was one of my jobs. I think it was one. Let's see. The day they went to Santa Cruz, I stayed behind, and I patched the top of the wall in the cistern, and then I painted it painted the inside, and one of the guys from the church helped me paint then with the inside of the cistern walls with swimming pool paint, epoxy paint. And this pump, it did not work, and the wiring around there it would drive a electrical inspector from Minnesota absolutely berserk. It's all 110 volt, but not a lot of grounds, hot and neutral, and a ground here and there, now and then. So anyway, this is one of the first days we got there. I was looking around at all the things that we needed to do. Oops, wrong button again. Okay, and in order to get that pump working, I had to find out where the wiring was. So I had the bottom bunk there. That was my bed. Kathy and Tammy slept over in those beds over there. And anyway, back in the corner, you can see there's a power box there, and there's a switch box over there. And, I had to figure it out. And it was goofy because the power came all the way over from the church, around the outside of church, back to this corner, into that box, and then from that box over to, back up to the little switch there, and that was wired backwards, so by the time I got done, I got it so the pump would run. And yeah, the motor worked, but there was no power out to the pump. The wires were not hooked up correctly at all, so somewhere along the line. And this is Pastor Manuel, and I I'm just amazed at what they can do with little of nothing. You look right behind him, over his shoulder, his right shoulder there. You see some boards on the wall. Well, that's how they make the edge for that window. 2 2x4s with a couple of rebar that are bent just right so there's tension on them. They get those boards up there and get them plumb, and then they start throwing mud at it and leveling it off. Throw some more mud at it, level it off. And they end up with a very nice, well, you can see where they had done that other corner and then they come along and you saw some pictures before where they started plastering it. It's just phenomenal. I can't. Yep. Yeah, it's just unbelievable how much they can do with so very little. Put it that way. I'm just amazed. And here's the guys this is the first day. Once we didn't have anything to work with yet. There was some 3-inch pipe laying there, so we started digging up to the pastor house. Tammy showed you the bathrooms before, and behind those bathrooms was an actual septic tank. And so we were digging a line for the drain waste to go down to the septic tank here. And there I am, checking we had a 2-foot level. That's what we had, 2-foot level. And it was, once they got through it, it was pretty easy dirt work to work with. So, and there's the shower and the bathrooms there, and back behind there is where we made the connection to the septic tank. Okay, there the plumbing is kind of roughed in. I've got the fresh water in, I've got the stuff in the floor, and you saw pictures before of where I got the concrete on the floor. We're done underneath. We tied everything. The supply water is there. The drain waste is there. We were supposed to hook up a kitchen sink, but they were building a cabinet for the sink was there and the stuff was there, but the cabinet wasn't there to put the sink on. So I figured they'll get at it eventually. There's the inside of the cistern that I painted, and that's the far wall up there is where the gap was where the paper had kind of rotted away and needed to be patched up. And that cistern, when we got there was probably 6 inches of water in it, something like that. But they got down in there with buckets, and they pailed it all out, put it in 55-gallon drums, and dumped it in the tank in front of the pastoral house. And one of the first things I did, is no pictures of it, but one of the gutters was on the side of the church was the brackets had broken, and it was all tipped down, and whatever moisture was in there was dripping over the edge of the gutter. So I got a ladder and I drilled a hole up in the siding up above and wrapped it up with wire and got it so the water has to go all the way down instead of spilling out before it gets to the pipe. There again is Claudia's stove that from the fundraising that we did at Christmas time at the bake sale and whatever helped provide for that. Oh, wait a minute. The picture here, let's see if I can go back. One more, there we go. Claudia's stove. Originally, we just had a little white extension cord running from the only outlet in the house, in the kitchen area, up across the top of the door, over to the stove there. But I found enough wiring supplies. I wired an outlet there for the stove, and the last day I got to thinking, I saw Claudia, she was standing there at the stove, 9 o'clock at night in the dark, working over the stove with very little light. All we had is one light basically up above the door. So I found a lamp base, and I took my extension cord that I had for my CPAP, cut it off, and wired it into that lamp base, put it on a 2x4, right over the top of the stove. She has light over the top of her stove, so make life a little bit easier for her, because they did so much for us. It's just takes your, another one of the things that we did is this door, kind of towards the end, been going in and out this door, and you always had to push it closed, or it drugged when you opened it. Well, the top pivot there needed a little tightening up, and the door frame the screws were gone and that, so we patched up the door frame and got the pivot so it worked, and jammed some shims up on top of the door, so it'll be good for a while. But the day we left, the guys they were measuring for a new door, so, but at least it works for now.
When we were doing that door, there was about 15 or so wasps that flew up out of the steel.
Yep. Oh, and that's another thing. I don't think nobody's talked about the wasps. This place was loaded with wasps, but they weren't aggressive at all, which was really good, because Josh and Pastor and Spencer, they were upstairs, and the wasp, when the morning sun came up against that wall, you know what? The wasp came alive. And nobody has talked about what sleeping conditions were like. I don't really have any pictures, but when we got there, Robert's talked about going to El Salvador. Well, this is not El Salvador at all. The temperature here, we were about 7,300 feet elevation. And so at night, our first night, I think it got down to the low 40s. So there was blankets. I think I had 3 blankets on my bed. I had the first night I only had 1 pair of socks on. Pair of socks, my sweatpants, 3 t-shirts, one of them was long sleeve, and then just tucked in under your blankets. That's how it was. And you saw the cracks in the breeze blew right through. There was cracks in the walls. So that's how it was. The first couple nights were really cold. Then it got a little bit better. But one night I did actually wear 2 pairs of socks, so because my toes got cold. All right. I didn't do any of the painting. I helped find some stuff, but what I did not do other than the cistern. There's what the church looked like when we got there. Well, those boards hadn't seen paint, and I have no idea if they ever saw paint. There they're starting. It's a challenge. Paint doesn't go very far, and it's all oil-based paint. It's not latex. It gets sucked right up. Spencer's there, and Spencer loves to paint. That's his most favorite thing, I heard. No, not really. He detested painting, but he did it. He was a good trooper. I got another story too, but anyway, Spencer, they got, just like I said, it's just sucked the paint up like nobody's business. But they had fun doing it. It made them as much fun out of it as possible. Thanks to Brian and Marcelo, made it fun. There's my dear. She's filling in the cracks, touching things up, and by the time we got done, it looked pretty decent. And there's how it was for us, so special. Now, Tammy and Kathy they're painting inside. And they're dancing and singing, you saw that video. But made it fun, made it pleasurable. Pretty wild colors. How about if we paint that up here? Just to liven it up a bit. It hasn't had anything for 30 years. We could use a little paint change, I suppose. I don't know if we have to go quite this wild. That building got painted, of course. It got nice and yellow. There they are, yellow paint. Josh hard at work. Josh was multi-talented too. He pitched in wherever. Did a nice job in the devotions. I don't know. You saw those earlier, the pictures of the stoves back there. the one where they were doing the tortillas on. It was just it was a brick stove, mud, concrete stove with a flat steel plate on it and a little tiny firebox in it. So you just kept feeding the sticks into it to regulate your temperature. And so I think I'm going to make one of them someday. I got one more project to do. And like I said, I was not going to go. I was dragging my feet. I wanted Kathy to go. I wanted her to experience it, but I wasn't going to go. But I'm so glad I did go. And, another little hand of God thing, and a couple of them actually, but when we landed in Dallas, after we left Minneapolis, just before we landed in Dallas, I was sitting there reading something, and all of a sudden, I couldn't see very good out of this one eye. So I took my glasses off. The lens was gone. It had fallen out. Okay, you're in an airplane. I managed to find my lens, but the screw came out. Where do you think you're going to find a screw for your glasses? Well, we landed, and most everybody was off the plane. I was down on the floor looking, and Spencer came, and we had our cell phones down there with flashlights, and it moved the carpet just enough or whatever. He saw it and got a hold of it, grabbed it. Okay, then how do you hang on to a little tiny screw and not lose it? I didn't have any tape, but Spencer had an empty pill bottle, so we dropped that screw in the pill bottle so I could carry it. Got into the airport thinking, okay, I'll find, a sunglass hut guy and find a screw, put it back together. Well, the fact that they were prescription lenses, you can't touch them. So he wasn't going to touch them. Company policy. So here I am going around with one lens in my glasses and the other one's in my pocket, and the screws in my pill bottle in my pocket in safekeeping. So the first morning we got up, I was up kind of early, and so I laid a rag. We were sitting out front on the bench. I was sitting out front on the bench and laid a rag out there. I had my glasses out there. I had my trusty jackknife out. I had the screw. I had my Leatherman. I could hold the screw like a tweezers. I could see the hole without my glasses on. I got it in there. I got the things turned around, and pretty soon I heard some pretty good music coming from across. Brian and Marcella were playing music, gospel music, Christian music. And right at that same time, I had my knife there, and that screw caught. And I just was able to take my jackknife and go half a turn at a time, getting it tightened up. So I was able to see for the whole time, because it would have been a really long 10, 11 days with only one lens in my glasses. And so then I had a Band-Aid, and I cut the Band-Aid up, and I wrapped it around that baby. It's still on there, so that screw can't work out. So that was kind of my first God moment on this trip. And another God moment is when, I think that was the first day when you and Pastor grabbed the guitars in the church. And Brian too, okay. And we sang Holy, 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 right? Lord, I lift your name on high. Okay, Lord, and we sang that in English, and Claudia was singing it in Spanish, and it was heaven on earth. It was really heaven on earth. So it is so special. It really is so special. So if you ever have the opportunity, do not, let it pass. If the Lord's calling you, do it. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.